Hey, so yeah, my name's James. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Yeah, I had prepared something, and then I realized I never actually shared my story here, and I was preparing the second half of my story, and I just realized I just spent all that time preparing something I wasn't going to use. So I'm just going to kind of share what got me here and just my journey getting to recovery and into a relationship with God. And I remember when I first got into recovery, trying to share my testimony. It's like I didn't have a lot to share. Like I couldn't remember most of my addiction, and even if I did, it's not something I want to talk about. And like I struggled filling 10 minutes, and like now it's like I have to. There's just yeah. The longer life goes on, the longer recovery goes on, the more worthwhile things there are to talk about. And like now I struggle not filling half an hour. And like I know people can talk on for hours. I'm not one of those guys. So half an hour is very long for me. So now I have to find a way to do it in 10 minutes. 8. Well, I just wasted a minute, so it's 9 minutes now. Okay, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, once again, I'm not going to stick around on the addiction story and the war stories and all that. We all have a past, and we all know how it goes. But like just a bit about it, like I started off drinking and using drugs heavily around 17, and when I started doing that, it's like I finally found that piece I was missing. Like what I've been seeking for my whole life was at the bottom of that bottle. The problem was it was never enough, and I just needed more and more and more and more and more, and the addiction progressed. It got to a point where like I was mainly happy when I was drinking at first. Like it was like parties, making friends for the first time in my life. People liked me. And the way it ended, like 8 years in, before I went to rehab, like I was alone. I isolated myself. I hated myself. I hated the world. I hated everyone around me. And like I was just this angry, like hateful, wrathful person. Like I used to fight bullies in elementary school when I was younger. I'd like defend those who got bullied all the time. And through my addiction, like I became the bully. I became the oppressor, and I hurt a lot of people, and I hated myself so much for that. Like to the point where like I just couldn't live that way anymore. So I isolated, and my new purpose at the end of the addiction, like I just wanted to take my life. I didn't want to live anymore. Like I was very suicidal, but I refused to try and take my own life because I thought that would be too easy. And I was such a horrible person. I believed that my new purpose, what I deserved, was to live as long as I could and make myself suffer as much as I could in the process until the bottle killed me. So I was literally drinking to die. And yeah, long story short, once again I couldn't live that way. Like it's like I lost the ability to continue living in that. So I was going to join the army and hopefully get myself killed in the process. Like that was the purpose of joining the army, go off overseas to war and get shot. And that was my loophole. I didn't take my own life, but at least I don't get to keep living this one. But at that point I fell into a psychosis. I was around 24/7 for about consistently for 5 years. And I realized I couldn't join the army anymore. Like they would never accept me. So I actually started seeking help, but I wanted to treat the voices, get that dealt with. And then once that's gone, I can join the army and get myself killed. But to do that, I had to be sober for a certain amount of time. So I ended up in the hospital, and 2 months in the hospital, I realized, oh, I'm in rehab. Like I didn't even know where I was. I just knew I was in the hospital. Like I was not all there. And, but yeah, that actually started my recovery journey because it's 4 months in the hospital, 4 months being sober, the longest I've been sober for at least since I started. Like I realized looking back on my addiction, just the way I was, like I was possessed when I drank and used drugs. Like that wasn't who I was. Like I had a better idea of who I was when I was a kid, when I was protecting those who needed protection, not when I was hurting those people closest to me. And so I just recognized I was possessed. So I decided to try recovery. And so the first year I couldn't get more than 2 days sober. And then I had a little bender on some drugs, and that kind of scared me. And so then I got a sponsor, started doing the steps, started sharing at meetings because I've been going to meetings for a year, not saying a single word. And so I started doing the things, right? Started getting friends, being part of community. And I got a year sober. And that year was like the worst year of my life. I discovered I have other issues, that substance addiction is just scratching the surface. Like it was my coping mechanism. I I'm already 5 minutes in, so I'm not going to explain everything, but basically to keep it short, my diagnosis is schizoaffective, bipolar and schizophrenia. And it was very severe, like it was unlivable. And I almost killed myself all over again. But at that point, even though I didn't believe in God, like he had placed something within me, like this spark that I just wanted to try life. Like I wanted a new way of living and I desired it so desperately. And so I prayed for the first time in my life. The first prayer was my new addiction, not my new old addiction, was video games. So I literally played video games from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, and I couldn't sleep unless I was awake 38 hours. And so I prayed for the obsession of that to be removed. And then the next day I woke up, played for an hour, and it was gone. I'm like, well, okay, well, this seems to work. So I discovered another song, this metal song, and the guy screaming in the mic, just like these are the darkest days, you know, the voices in his head are telling him it's too late. Like I was relating to all of it. I had a voice in my head, and he just starts begging God to just see one more day. It's like, please God, let me just see one more day. And so I started praying that every day. And that started the next part of my journey. I started, I don't have time to get into all the details, but I eventually got the help I needed from the hospital. Help I shouldn't have been able to get, but it just worked out that I got it. And so I went on medication and all this kind of stuff. And so that helped me a lot. It got rid of most of the symptoms, but it didn't get rid of the depression and the suicidal ideation. So the next 5 years was basically dealing with that. And I stopped seeking God, like this thing that answered my prayers. I stopped seeking. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I don't remember much of it, but I just kept doing the things in the recovery, the steps, the meetings, the community, the service. I was sharing at hospitals and institutions. I probably should not have. I did not have a great message, but I still was. I was doing the things. And, but then 5 years in, and I lost hope again. I kept losing hope throughout this whole process. I kept relapsing, and I got 2 years at one point, but I wanted to die, and my way to kill myself was the bottle. So I kept going back to the bottle. But 5 years in, I just reached the end of my road. I'm going to kill myself. This is the only hope I have left. Death is my salvation. But once again, I had that spark that wanted life. So I started seeking what answered my prayer all those years ago. I still had not a concept of what it was. I started believing in spiritual things and things I can't see, in beings, in powers greater than my own and those around me, but I wasn't seeking them. And so I started seeking them. And I had a friend that was Wiccan, and I started in the pagan world, going to like these rituals and festivals and offerings and all this kind of stuff, started getting into witchcraft. And I mean, it felt amazing. Like there was something there. There's my first time experiencing spiritual power, like feeling this presence I couldn't see. And it was powerful. It was overwhelming. But there's just this voice in my head telling me like, I don't belong there. It just kept repeating, I don't belong there. But I ignored it at first because it felt good being there. But then I started reflecting on my time there, and I started recognizing like this feels almost like my addiction. Like I wasn't behaving the same way in my addiction, but whatever was there was very dominant and was trying to like shape me and mold me. I was seeing who I was in these places, and I wasn't myself. I wasn't who I wanted to be. And so I got scared and stopped seeking again, because it's just like, it was a very scary experience. It was, But then once again, a year goes by and I'm still in the same place I was before, suicidal ideation and no hope but death. And so I started, I made a friend at that time who was running a Bible study. So I decided I haven't tried this yet. I might as well go see what this is about. So I went to this church and I walked into this room, and once again, I felt this presence, like this power, but it wasn't overwhelming and dominant like it was at these other rituals. It was just, like, it was like I was walking home. I just came in, and like, yes, the people were nice and the building was nice, but this was beyond that. Like this presence is not contained within walls. And I just walked in there, and it just loved me. It looked at me. It saw me. It saw this broken excuse, this fractured excuse of the man that I was, this pathetic being that couldn't even get by a single day. And it took me as I was and said, welcome home. It didn't try to change me. It didn't try to dominate me. It just loved me, and it just took me in its arms. And I'm running out of time, but that was another 6 months process. I walked into this room. I started believing in God and the Holy Spirit and demons and angels and all this kind of stuff. And I knew witchcraft and all that stuff was real too because I had experienced it. But I just couldn't believe in Jesus. But I recognized that Jesus was my home. And so I just kept seeking 6 months. I just kept going. I'm like, this is my only hope, is this or death. Like, some people may have the dubious luxury of trusting and hoping in something other than God, but trusting and hoping in something other than God, for me, it means death. And 6 months in, one day I believed and I turned my life over. And I realized my whole life I've been seeking for something, and I thought I found it in that bottle. But this whole time, the peace, this void that I was trying to fill with everything around me, with relationships, with alcohol, like only God was able to fill it without being consumed. This thing that I've been looking for my whole life was God, and I just didn't know it. And that's pretty much all the time I have. And I would love to share my second half, because this relationship with God, like, life has not been the same. I'm like 8 years sober now. I've recovered from the mental obsession of alcoholism. I still went 5 years with suicidal ideation, but even in those deepest moments where the only visible hope I could see was to kill myself, I was not once tempted to drink. That part of my life is gone, and eventually led me to a part of my life. Now it's been a year or so, I've been delivered from depression. Depression is also a part of my life, and I'm working on some other stuff now. It's an ongoing process, but anyways, I'm going to stop it here. So thanks for listening, everyone.